They said the church was abandoned. They were wrong. It was just listening. The old building stood like a crooked skeleton against the twilight sky, its bell tower cracked and silent. Wind howled through the broken teeth of its stained glass windows, a lonely, mournful sound. The front door creaked open as I stepped inside, my heart thudding against my ribs. Dust motes danced in the last rays of sunlight, slanting through the nave. The pews were torn, the hymn books water-damaged and swollen. But the altar was pristine, oddly, unnaturally clean. I took a hesitant step forward, my backpack feeling heavy on my shoulders. A faint whisper seemed to cling to the air, like breath caught in stone. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small and weak in the cavernous space. Only silence answered. I let out a shaky breath, trying to dismiss the unease coiling in my gut. Why was I here? The memory was sharp, a fresh wound. The sterile smell of the hospital, the relentless, piercing flatline of the heart monitor. My sister's hand, cold in mine. Her last words, a desperate plea. Pray for me. Back in the church, I swallowed the lump in my throat. My eyes were drawn to the wall behind the altar. Faded letters, barely visible in the gloom, spelled out a chilling promise. Prayers are always answered. Hours later, moonlight streamed through the shattered windows, painting the decaying interior in silver and shadow. I sat in a pew, clutching a small, worn photograph of my sister. I don't even know who I'm talking to. I whispered to the empty air, the bitterness tasting like acid in my mouth. Finally, driven by a grief that was heavier than logic, I stood and approached the altar. My hands trembled as I knelt on the cold stone floor. If you're here, if anyone's here, please, my voice cracked, just give her peace, a beat of absolute silence. Then, a low echo, not loud, not threatening, but ancient and impossibly deep, seemed to resonate from the very walls around me. Peace is possible. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing. Who said that? I stammered, scrambling backward. The voice didn't answer. Instead, the long melted stubs of candles on the altar ignited, their flames flickering to life all at once, casting dancing shadows that writhed and twisted. No, I breathed, stumbling away. No, this isn't. The voice cut through my denial, calm and resolute. You asked. The next morning, I stumbled out of the church, pale and shaken. An old woman was waiting by the path, a bundle of heavy iron keys clutched in her hand. You stayed the night, she stated, her voice raspy with age. I was startled. I what? She nodded slowly. No one stays the night unless they hear it. I studied her weathered face, the deep lines etched around her eyes. Hear what? She let out a long, weary sigh. The answer. Her name was Martha, the town's caretaker. We sat in a small, greasy spoon diner, surrounded by old photographs on the walls. In many of them, the faces had been violently scratched out. The church spoke to me, I said, my voice flat. Martha showed no surprise, just slowly stirred her coffee. It always does, she replied. That's not normal, I insisted. She finally looked up at me, her eyes dark and knowing. Neither is grief. She told me a story from long ago when the town's mine collapsed, trapping dozens of men deep underground. The families, frantic with worry, gathered at the church. They prayed, they begged, they pleaded for a miracle. The next morning, the collapsed entrance to the mine had reopened itself. I leaned in, my breath catching in my throat. They survived? Martha didn't answer right away. She took a slow sip of her coffee. They walked home, she said quietly. But they weren't breathing. Against all reason, I went back that night. The air inside the church felt heavier, more oppressive than before. As soon as I stepped inside, the candles on the altar burst into flame. You said peace was possible, I called out, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. The ancient voice echoed around me once more. Everything has a cost. I don't care, I shot back, the words torn from the deepest part of my soul. There was a pause. That is why you were heard. Horrific images flashed through my mind, visions that weren't my own. A woman praying for her abusive husband to change. The vision showed him becoming gentle, kind, as she went completely blind. A father on his knees, praying for food for his starving family. Crops sprouted overnight, a miraculous bounty. From soil that turned black and barren forever. A child weeping, praying for their mother to wake from a coma. The mother's eyes opened, and she never slept again, her mind slowly fracturing from endless waking torment. I clutched my head, the vision searing my brain. You twist it, I yelled into the darkness. You twist everything. The voice remained eerily calm. I fulfill what is asked, not what is meant. I looked at the altar, and my blood ran cold. Dark, thick blood was seeping slowly from the cracks in the ancient stone. Ignoring it, ignoring everything, I let my own deepest prayers spill out. I want my sister back. The silence that followed was longer this time, heavier, charged with an awful potential. Then the voice returned. That prayer still echoes. The church dissolved around me, and I was back in the hospital room. My sister lay in the bed, still and pale. But then her eyes snapped open. She smiled at me, a wide, beautiful smile. You prayed, she said, her voice clear and strong. Relief washed over me, so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. But then I noticed it. Her skin was pulled tight over her bones, an unnatural stillness about her. Her chest wasn't rising. You're not breathing, I whispered in horror. She just kept smiling that serene, empty smile. You asked for peace, I screamed. The vision shattered, and I collapsed on the church floor, sobbing. Take it back. Take it back. The candles flared violently, the flames leaping towards the ceiling. The voice boomed, losing its calm for the first time. Prayers cannot be unheard. At dawn, Martha approached the church. The great wooden doors were wide open. Inside, she saw me. I was kneeling at the altar, motionless, my eyes open and fixed on something she couldn't see. A faint smile played on my lips. Martha closed her eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the wrinkles on her cheek. I warned you, she whispered. As she turned to leave, she noticed something new carved into the altar stone, the letters fresh and sharp. Thank you for listening. Just then, a new figure appeared in the doorway, a young man, his face etched with desperation. He stumbled towards the altar, falling to his knees, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. Please, he begged the silence. I just need one miracle. In the eternal twilight of the church, my smile widened, just slightly, and one by one, the candles ignited. The ancient voice echoed once more, whispering its terrible promise. Peace is possible. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy tales of quiet horror, don't forget to subscribe for more videos.